Well, since I bought it 12 years ago, you might say I've been working 12 years on making this video. Not quite exactly true, but just go with it. And there are two caveats. One is that this is investing. If you live in Texas, then you might have a whole different experience. And number two, things could change. We might have another housing recession and there might be better buying opportunities in the future. So I don't know. It kind of depends on when you're watching this. So in November 2024, I finally sold the property for $375,000, which sounds great because I only paid $147,000. So seems like there's a whole bunch of profit to be made there. But there's a whole bunch of expenses to be paid out there, so it's not quite as lucrative as it would seem. And that's what we're going to talk about. Plus, there are the headaches of home ownership and dealing with renting it out and all that great stuff. So there's this like mental toll, mental cost that has to come along with the territory as well. And that can be pretty heavy at times. And yeah, it definitely was. In the stock market, we have what's called set it and forget it. You buy stocks and you don't have to look at them. You don't have to do anything except just wait. And you can wait forever. In housing, you can't do that. So there were some problems, like many problems. I don't want to over exaggerate, but there were a lot of problems, and that's what I'm going to discuss. So every month I would pay about, a certain amount, and it just kind of went up over time, and that was the escrow. The escrow was kind of two sides, the P&I, principal and interest side, and then there was the other side, which was the insurance and state taxes and county taxes. So those two together were this sum that just kind of went up to Chase Bank every month and just kept going up over time. When it ended, it was $2,175 a month. And I think if I had stayed to 2025, it would have been like $2,300 a month. But we'll break that down more in a bit. When I left, it was about, I guess, $9,000 a year, roughly $9,000 a year. Higher for investors. That can kind of change. I've seen prices be a lot low for people and higher, but for me, it was $9,000, so that's kind of what I had to take away, and that equated to about $752 a month. So every month, $752. That's not going to go away ever. Doesn't even matter if you pay off your mortgage. It's just going to keep going up, and that's what it did. It started out maybe $400 or $500 and just kept going up. The P&I didn't change that much. In fact, the principal kept going down. Not much, a tiny bit, but it was just that other half kept going up, and that became a huge problem. So yeah, P&I guess you could say, was about $520 a month, which I have to take in mind that even if I had paid off the mortgage, the property tax and the insurance would not go away. They'd still keep going up, really. The insurance, that was another big thing. I went through Liberty, and it wasn't so bad in the first early years, but then last year, it was probably about $6,000, like $6,500, and then when I renewed, it went to $10,000 a year. $10,000 a year just to have insurance. I had to have it because of the mortgage, but I could have gotten rid of it if I had paid off the mortgage, so that was something to consider. But yeah, that equates to about $850 a month. Before it was like $650, so the $850 plus the $520 plus the $750, that's a lot of money per month, as we've discussed. But it's good to note. So if I took away the P&I, it could have been $1,750, and it could have gotten rid of the insurance, and then it would have just been paying state tax. So that I guess would have helped a bit. But you kind of want to have insurance for some reasons, but do you really have to have it? It depends. As far as rent, back in, I guess, 2012, I first started at $1,450 a month, I believe, then $1,500, maybe I don't know, for the next renter, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I did actually move it up every couple years. Ended up being $2,000 for probably the past, 2 or 3 years. And maybe I could have got it to $2,100, but again, the escrow would have been $2,300 about, so a $200 loss per month. And that's assuming nothing goes wrong. You don't have to buy anything or replace anything or repair anything. And by golly, I did all the time. Now I'll just go through a list of like the things that you might not expect. And again, you have to have the money for this. If you don't have the money, where's it going to come from? Even though the house might be appreciating, you still have to have cash to pay for this kind of stuff. Or you can put it on a credit card, but then until you sell, you're not going to be able to pay off the credit card. So it's really complicated. But I'll start with the roof. The roof had an incident last year, and this might have been the reason why the insurance went up so much, because I did make one claim in 12 years. The big storm came through and high winds. I don't know if it was a tornado, but it ripped up the roof. Got an estimate. The estimate basically, well, it's a kind of a scam. They have the insurance people come out and say, well, we estimate it's going to be like $14,000. And then the roof people said, well, $14,000. So they won't go over it really unless they kind of have to, but they kind of match it. But they definitely are not going to go under that amount. I did have a deductible about $2,500, so I paid, almost $12,000, or I got that back, I should say. But was it worth it? I don't know, because the premiums went way up after that. So I did have to pay for the roof that time, and it made me think, is the insurance really worth it if I had paid like $60,000 over the time I had it and only used it once? Maybe it's just not worth it. Although it is required if you have a loan, so I didn't have a choice unless I wanted to pay off the loan. HVAC, the heater, air conditioning, those units, had to have two of them because it was a two-story home, so that just doubles the amount you've got to spend on these things. $9,500. I think I replaced each unit maybe once or something. I don't know how long they're supposed to last, but yeah, that wasn't fun. Now, this is the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I don't know, it's kind of the middle of Texas. You'd think the lands would be kind of solid by now in the history of Earth, but nope, apparently the foundation kind of sinks a little, so foundation issues occurred. That cost me about $6,150, so that wasn't great, and because that starts to make cracks, you actually pay in many ways. You have to, the walls start cracking, you have to fix that. The door frames crack, you have to fix that. The floor, I had to replace some tile because of that. So that foundation issue, I also had to kind of raise the house a little bit. Yeah, $6,000 just there, but I only did that kind of once, but that was costly. So something you might not think about, has to be done. Floors and carpet were an interesting thing because I tried not to do it very often, but I didn't replace the carpets like once upstairs. They were new when I bought it, but to sell it, I kind of really did have to go all out and do a nice job on hardwood floors, which I could have done earlier, but then renters would kind of start destroying it, not on purpose, just by living there, kind of destroying the investment in that. So I might have had to done the floors twice or something. I don't know. I guess in the end, it might have been better to do it maybe earlier when things were cheaper and just hope their pets didn't destroy them, but that's a risk either way. So anyway, what was the cost? $9,400. So $9,400 on carpets and flooring. Appliances break down, and if you're renting out, renters expect you to have appliances. I had a washer and dryer, and by the time I sold it, those were gone. I don't know what renter took them. I did a bad job of kind of going out and visit between renters. I never went out to the house until I saw it, not even before I bought it. But $3,750. Sprinklers, you would think you wouldn't have to do much with the sprinklers. They're in the ground. I mean, they don't do much, just pipes with water. $1,080. The pool. The pool will be its own section, but I'll give you the price now, $21,700. $21,700 for that pool. This might have been a whole different experience if I didn't buy a pool. Painting, yes, painting. As I said, that whole foundation issue made it so I had to paint, and then some renters would ask if they could paint some walls, and I figured, okay, but then they paint it like blue, and one was mustard, and it was just awful. So obviously I had to paint the house. I guess it doesn't matter what color they would have painted. I had to have it all painted before selling it. So painting costs $15,500. Yeah. But that was also to kind of fix some rotted wood and things like that. So there was a little more to it, inside and outside. I got actually a good deal on painting. Miscellaneous, like, I don't know, fixing some water faucets, some landscaping, things like that, floor cleaning, $2,800. The deeper cleaning, that would be between renters coming in, getting ready to sell. So there were times where I had to just have a nice cleaning service come in. What was that? $3,250. Bad weather, it's Texas, the winds blow hard, the rains come down, wood gets destroyed, and the fences are made of wood, so I had to have the fences repaired a couple times. No neighbors ever wanted to help. That's something that they would say, oh yeah, everyone's like, and there are actually an exceptional amount of friendly people out there, but sometimes when it comes, your neighbors aren't always the best people when it comes to repairs. They kind of think, let's have you do it and you pay for it. So I never could get one neighbor to pay for anything. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. That was my experience. But fencing actually was only was $2,700. So $2,700 to fix the fence like 2 or 3 times. I kind of kept this under the roof, but it was sort of the roof attic. Squirrels were getting in. They were, just launching from the trees that would get inside. Trees I think I kept under, maintenance, but there were times I had to prune the trees. But the squirrels got into the roof and they would nest up there, and they had to dig into the house, and it was just awful. So I had to pay for all that kind of roof service. It was annoying, but had to be done. $2,500 for the roof work. And another part of selling was the staging, where you kind of have some nice furniture put in. Helps a lot, really helps get buyers to envision what the house would be like. I've seen some staging work that's done excellent, and the people that did mine did a great job, but still not cheap, $2,400. Yeah, and they'll put it up there for 48 days, but if your house sells in 2 weeks, then I guess it's worth it. So we have the total. It's not totally accurate. There are more expenses here or maybe there, but I just kind of rounded it to $71,240. $71,240. Majority of that, I would say like $50,000 was the past year getting it ready to sell. But yeah, it was just insane. So that big profit that it looked like I might have gotten from going from like 147 to 375, we gotta deduct all these things that people may not think about. That $71,000 for starters. Plus there was a deposit, $37,000 for that deposit. Had to put that money in. I had about 4 months with no renters, so everything I was paying during that time, and that was probably $10,000 for that escrow, so no rent coming in. So that $10,000, that $2,100 or $200 a month, I estimate about $10,000 for that. No renters mean no utilities being paid, and I had to keep the utilities going because all this construction going on, they can't work in the dark, or the heat actually. They have to have the water going to keep the pool running. You can't have the pool turn green. Yeah, the pool. And the gas. Didn't have to have cable at least, but I would say for rent or utilities, it was $2,200 for that. Yeah, I did finance it, so there was $85,000 left on the loan. I went from 110 to 85, so a pretty decent amount was paid off on the loan, the principal. That's not bad. Yes, we got to pay our the realtor, the buying realtor, and the selling realtor. That was $22,000. Part of the process, $22,500 to be exact. I did give a credit back to the buyers. They were going to pay something off or do something, I don't know, pay down some points, $8,000. So my sales price was really not $375, it was probably $367, so $8,000 gone, if you consider it $275. And then I almost forgot this one. This is actually a big one, but I almost forgot it, that I do have to pay the taxes on this. So even though I did all the math, deductions, and all that kind of stuff, and I work with a tax expert on this, we're estimating about $25,000 for taxes, which actually is really good. It's just a year where it's advantageous. One of the reasons I sold was the tax year. So $25,000 there. So we take that $375,000 and deduct all those things and all those figures together, and what do we come up with? $113,000. $113,500, however you just say that, $113,500. Divide that by 12, and you've got about, $9,400 annually, which is okay. Again, it's okay, but with the escrow and all that, I was kind of breaking even on the rent, so I can't say I was making money on the rent all that time. It really comes down to this actual final profit. So would that money have been better off in the stock market? Maybe, kind of. To be clear, I couldn't have just taken $147,000 and put in the stock market because I wouldn't have gotten a loan to do that. I would have just taken the deposit money, the down payment money, and that would have been $37,000. So $37,000 in the stock market to get to that figure would have been about 9.75% annually compounded. So that actually is doable if you had the right stocks. Overall, on the average, we don't usually get 9.75% a year, so it's kind of better. But I don't know, some of the stocks since then have gone like doubled. Then again, that's 70. So yeah, I would say investment-wise, it turned out okay. And but the other thing to consider is that headache, the dealing with that. With the stock market, you put your money in, you never have to do anything. There's no one going to say you need a new hot water heater, you need a new roof, you don't have to deal with the insurance companies, you don't have to do the renter turnover and all that work. There's a lot of work that goes on. And then when you're selling it, massive amounts of work that go on, and money to spend, and again, taxes. With stocks, you don't ever pay any taxes until you sell a stock. So you could go a long time with never paying any taxes on those stocks. And there's no property tax on stocks. But again, worth it? Yeah, it's just that cost. Now for me, I bought it thinking I was going to, I didn't actually buy it for the video. I bought it thinking I was going to maybe live there someday. And that is one of the reasons I got a pool. So I had to keep that in mind. But yeah, the emails that I was looking back on and the renters that I was having to deal with, that was just some craziness in and of itself. My first renters brought in feral cats that they just kept in rooms, feral cats, and they peed all over the carpets, whatever, they're feral cats. So that's what kind of had me replacing all the carpets after the very first set of renters. That wasn't fun. Second set of the renter actually went really well, no real problems, except he complained about the smell from the first set of renters' cats. Third renter, and the second renter actually left early, so I had this early turnover, which you lose money on turnover. Third renter was a really nice family, but the guy lost his job, and he was kind of lying a lot about his job situation, so he could never pay rent on time or at all. That was just a horrific nightmare of many, many emails, just me trying to work with the guy to get him so he could pay the rent, but in the end, he had to leave, and it was just, and lose his deposit. It was just all bad. Fourth renter actually was a pretty good family, a couple, but and they paid on time every month. It's just, I saw all the emails that they had. I saved everything about the pool, and it was always the pool's got a problem. The heater's not working, this and that, and just there were so many nightmares about that pool that yeah, they at least paid the rent, but there's so many issues. And the fifth renter, they were okay. They were 5 years, but they had dogs that peed on the carpets, and yeah, more carpet problems and smell problems from that. So I had to replace all of that, but it was going to be replaced anyway, I suppose. Just wall damage from them putting up doggy doors and things. Yeah, so it's so nice to not have to deal with this anymore. But I did want to go into the pool. In case you are thinking about, this could be a whole different video, in case you're thinking about getting a pool, consider the cost. Now, as an investment property, absolutely not. Don't even think about it for an investment property, because if you live there, you at least get to swim every day. If you got a family, you got pool parties, you got a lot of fun reasons. Consider wisely if you do want to heat the pool. Your gas bill is going to be in the hundreds of dollars higher than it normally is. So that's something to think about, but that depends if it's worth it. But if it's as an investment property, there were so many expenses. Like I said, $21,000. Now, I would say the pool gained like $25,000 on the sale of the house. So, house with a pool, without a pool, maybe I increased the money by $25,000. It's hard to really gauge that. However, I also probably paid maybe $15,000 more for the pool. So you could say, yeah, I gained $10,000. But remember, $21,000 in cost, so I lost money on the pool. Could I have rented it for the same amount? Maybe. Would I have been able to keep renters or get them as fast? Maybe. That's hard to really say. But yeah, I would say it was almost a negative $12,000, and that's just not including the nightmare of having to deal with all the contractors having to come, and the pool people, and the lights being fixed, and leaks being repaired, and the heater not working. There are just so many expenses to having a pool. And again, I wasn't even paying the water bill, except for the last few months, but the people have to pay for the water. When it evaporates, you run the filter all day long, especially in the summer, and you got all that water evaporating, and you got to fill it back up again. So that's not ideal. But how did it get so high? How do you spend $21,000? Well, like I said, the foundation issues of the land sinking meant my deck was kind of sinking too, so that kind of lowered away. Also, all that cement kind of was wasted and had to be like drilled out and repaired or replaced. That was I don't know, $5,000 right there. The filter's got to be running every single day pretty much, especially in the summer. They wear out over time. The filters have to be replaced, the cartridges, all that, but you're eventually going to need a new filter, $2,000. The cartridges maybe like a couple hundred a year or more. Yeah, or they at least need to be clean. There's a couple $100 every 6 months. For me, the heater panel went out. That had to replaced maybe twice, a couple $1,000s for that. If the heater goes out, there's $4,000 or $5,000. And I did have the leaks to worry about in the early days. I had one unprofessional company come out, and I wasted $4,000 because they couldn't fix anything, and then they were out of business by the time I tried to come back at them. But I did have a cool, very professional company come out, another few $1,000s, but it was done properly and fix the issues. And in the very end, I had to replace the lights. One of the very last payments was to replace the lights. $2,000, I think it was $2,000. Yeah, $2,000 just to put 2 pool lights in. $2,000. They had to be professional. Didn't want to electrocute anyone. So I'm surprised high power even goes out there, but maybe they're converting it to LED, low power DC. I don't know. $2,000. So you do have to think about that, you know. Even if you do live there, just think about, do I really want to spend that much money per month, per year for a pool? You might be luckier than I was anyway. So, or if you just change your mind, I don't know, $20,000 to fill in the pool. So, yeah, if you buy one with a pool, you're kind of stuck with this literal money pit that you can't get rid of until you sell the house, really, unless you want to spend $20,000. And yeah, and I said, like, for living out there, for the most part, utilities I didn't pay. Renters paid when they lived there, so I only paid at the end. And at the end, I did get an idea of how much. Electric bills, I mean, if you really want to keep your house cool in the 100-degree days of summer, I don't know, $400 to $700 a month. And you also got to run that pool heater all day. Now, if you get solar, that can help. I highly recommend solar if you do own a house out there. But yeah, $400 to $800 for the electric. And then you've got, I don't know, the gas bill, couple hundred there. You've got the water bill, keeping that pool filled and running those sprinklers if you want to keep your lawn green, or just get a drought-friendly landscaping. A couple $100 there too. So I don't know, maybe $1,000 a month if you throw in the cable. Yeah, $1,000 a month. That just seems like a lot. But if you did own out there or invest out there, you can say, well, let's say you lived out there, $1,000 a month. You've got maybe a good property tax for $500 a month. Your insurance, $600 a month. That would be good insurance. Mine was, like I said, a lot more than that. And then $600 for property taxes, and that's a pretty good deal. So all told, you've got $2,700 a month to deal with. And that's without a pool. I don't know, average $300 a month for the pool. So $3,000 a month. This could vary quite a lot for different people. If you bought a house for $200,000, the figures are all different. Or it could be a lot more, but $3,000 a month, even if you live there. Which would bring up, why not just rent somewhere for $2,000 a month and put $1,000 that you could have into the stock market, if you can afford it. If you can't afford $3,000, moot point. But if you could spend $3,000 a month, rent for $2,000, put $1,000 a month into the stock market, and you might be better off in 12 years. And one thing to consider that, I did try to buy in other areas. I was looking at the Bay Area in California, but just nothing went through. But to consider that, one thing that I really learned is that you kind of pay by square feet. You don't pay by percentage of the home, meaning like, if you have a 2,000 square foot home in one area for a $500,000 house, it's going to be the same amount to replace the floor as if it were $1 million house somewhere else. So you're not paying by the percentage of what the home is worth. You're paying, just some things are flat fees. A hot water heater costs the same in different places. So that was what I was considering. I spent $50,000. I'd rather spend $50,000 on a home where I was going to get, $500,000 in profit as opposed to like $113,000 in profit, with the exception being that you got to pay, your realtors are going to get a percentage of the closing price, and your taxes are going to be paid based on your closing price. So there are exceptions to that, but overall, you kind of want an area where you're going to make the most amount of money. I mean, that makes sense. The most amount of money on your time and effort, but in the end, it was a good experience, I guess. And yeah, I would, the next home I buy, it would be a place I'm just living in. So I wouldn't do it as an investment property, and I definitely wouldn't do it in Texas. So I'm sorry, nice people out there. And there were cheap deals for a while. I don't even think they're that cheap anymore. But I would say, yeah, I could really consider that long and hard before, I would just say just don't for investment. If you're moving out there and you got a job or you got a lot of friends and family, sure, just those summers are insanely hot. That's a whole different video, but they are insanely hot. And the winters are cold. Yeah. All right, I think I covered everything. That was my experience with Texas investing. 12 years in the making. So I think I worked hard on this one. Cheers.